Reinforcements have arrived. Mission timer initialized.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Vehicle acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Acknowledged. Comrade, acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade, affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, affirmative.
New construction options.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Report acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Report
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Waiting order.
Unit
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Report affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Vehicle report. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction
Yes, sir.
complete.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Cannot deploy here. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit lost.
Vehicle report. Affirmative.
Construction complete. New construction options. Building.
Report. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready. Building. Construction complete.
Yes,
Building.
sir. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Comrade, affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Report. Acknowledged.
Report
Unit
affirmative.
ready.
Report acknowledged.
Building. Construction complete. New construction options.
Yes,
Building.
sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building.
Vehicle reporting.
Waiting order.
Affirmative.
Insufficient funds. Building. Unit ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Construction
Yes, sir.
complete. New construction options. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Waiting order.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
The
Acknowledged.
base is under
Acknowledged.
attack. Insufficient funds.
Report acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building. Building. Construction complete. New construction
Waiting
options.
acknowledged.
Low power. Building.
Waiting
Affirmative.
acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
repaired.
Acknowledged.
Repairing. Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Report acknowledged. Awaiting orders.
Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete. Unit ready. Building. Insufficient funds. Repairing. Unit ready.
Waiting.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Reporting.
Unit
Yes,
ready.
sir. Acknowledged.
Building. Unit ready. Our base
sir.
is under attack.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes, sir.
lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Repairing. Unit ready. Repairing.
Reporting.
Insufficient funds. Repairing.
Yes, affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
repaired.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost. Unit ready. Building.
Report. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Comrade. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
repaired.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Vehicle acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Report. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Reporting.
Building.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Repair.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Comrade. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders.
Unit repaired.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders.
Naval unit lost.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative.
Naval unit
Report affirmative.
lost.
Acknowledged. Report acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building. Unit ready.
Reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Unit ready. Building.
Waiting order.
Report acknowledged. Report affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Comrade.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged.
Reporting.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting
Unit
order.
ready.
Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
Comrade, acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Repairing. Unit repaired. Repairing. Unit repaired. Unit ready. Building. Repairing.
Reporting.
Insufficient funds.
Comrade, affirmative. Acknowledged.
Repairing.
Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Comrade,
Report
Repair.
acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Insufficient
waiting.
funds.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Repairing.
Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Awaiting orders.
Comrade,
Insufficient funds.
Awaiting orders.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
yes, sir.
Repair.
Acknowledged.
Unit repaired. Insufficient
Vehicle
funds.
affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Report affirmative. Acknowledged. Report affirmative. Vehicle affirmative. Awaiting
yes, sir.
orders.
Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Awaiting
Affirmative.
orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle
Acknowledged.
affirmative. Report acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Naval
Acknowledged.
unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
40 minutes remaining.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, affirmative.
Report acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Report affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting order. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Repairing. On hold.
Yes, sir.
Cancelled.
Yes, affirmative.
Unit repaired.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Report affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
Unit
Vehicle
sold.
reporting.
Unit ready. Unit
Report
sold.
acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Awaiting orders.
Unit
Yes, sir.
sold.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit sold. Building.
Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Comrade.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Insufficient
Acknowledged.
funds.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit prepared.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
30
Affirmative.
minutes
Acknowledged.
remaining.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready. Building. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction complete. New construction options. Training.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Waiting order.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building. Training.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Unit
sir.
ready.
Vehicle report.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Waiting order.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Waiting
Acknowledged.
order.
Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Structure.
Awaiting
stable.
orders.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Building. On hold. Cancel.
Vehicle report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle report.
20
Acknowledged.
minutes
Affirmative.
remaining.
Acknowledged. Vehicle report. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Vehicle
Affirmative.
reporting. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Affirmative. Very well.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting affirmative. Order. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Our base is under attack.
Vehicle report.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative.
Waiting
Unit
orders.
lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Yeah,
Unit
okay.
lost.
Okay. Okay.
Awaiting
Unit
orders.
lost.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit
Well,
lost.
agreed. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Affirmative.
Lost. Our base is under attack. Structure
Ready and
lost.
wait once.
Structure sold.
Report once. Affirmative.
Structure
Ready and
sold.
waiting.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Structure
Yeah,
sold.
okay.
Awaiting orders.
Affirmative.
Awaiting
Very
orders.
well.
Of course.
Structure sold.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Very well. Yes, sir. Comrade. Affirmative.
Building. On hold. Cancel. Building. 10 minutes remaining.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Awaiting orders.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Report affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Awaiting orders.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting.
Unit ready. Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Structure
Ready and
sold.
waiting. Very well. Reporting. Agreed. Affirmative. At once.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Building.
affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Acknowledged.
Reporting.
Agreed.
Waiting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Ready and waiting.
Yeah?
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Warning.
Acknowledged.
5 minutes remaining.
Acknowledged.
Insufficient
Affirmative.
funds.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Warning.
Affirmative.
4 minutes
Acknowledged.
remaining. Unit lost.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. At once. Yes, sir. Agreed.
Unit
Awaiting
lost.
orders. Waiting for
Unit
orders.
ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Warning.
Affirmative.
3 minutes
Acknowledged.
remaining.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Waiting
Unit
orders.
lost.
Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Minutes remaining.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Warning.
Acknowledged.
1 minute
Affirmative.
remaining.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Ready and waiting. Agreed.
Comrade. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Lost.
Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Awaiting orders.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Waiting orders.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Unit lost. Structure sold.
Report agreed. Agreed.
Waiting affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Reinforcements have arrived. Building. Unit lost. Unit lost. Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Vehicle report. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Reporting. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Comrade, affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Awaiting affirmative.
Naval
Yes, sir.
unit lost.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative.
Naval unit lost.
Report acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Comrade, acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Waiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting order. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Report. Affirmative. Comrade. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Report. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Awaiting
Affirmative.
orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Vehicle
Acknowledged.
reporting.
Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Vehicle reporting. Report acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Waiting order.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reinforcements have
Affirmative.
arrived.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Yes, sir.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Reporting. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Report. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Agreed.
Waiting order. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reporting at once. Very well. Reporting orders. Agreed. Very well. Affirmative. Affirmative. Very well.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Comrade. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Vehicle acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting order.
Vehicle reporting. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Very well.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Agreed.
Comrade. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Of course.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Reporting.
Vehicle reporting.
Building.
Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Agreed. Yes, sir.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Reporting. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. At
Unit
once.
lost.
Affirmative. Agreed. Affirmative. At once.
Vehicle report. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Insufficient
Acknowledged.
funds.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders.
Waiting order. Affirmative. Comrade.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Waiting order. Affirmative.
Vehicle
Affirmative.
acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Awaiting order. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Reporting very well. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Awaiting orders. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Reporting
Affirmative.
at once.
Very well.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Reporting.
At once.
Of course.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Mission accomplished.
Congratulations, comrade. That was a difficult campaign. I do not envy you. Yet I think all of Spain was beaten into submission. What you left of it. I know your most difficult missions still lie ahead. I will not keep you from your work. Let us say, the next time we meet, we'll be with vodka in our hands and large women on our arms. До свидания, Керри. Be well. And here we are, comrade. You have done your job so well, I am out of mine. As I predicted, no war to fight. Yet, do not worry. I have a dasher to tend, cabbages to grow. And as we both know, I have lost my heart in this. But this I will leave for you in your new office. General,